everyone, Dr. Tevlin here and Dr. Kendra Kyer from Aspire Chiropractic, and we have our lovely guest over here, Tom Venerad.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. And Tom is a personal injury attorney, so we thought we'd bring him in and do a little Q&A for patients and just learn a little bit about personal injury for our patients. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about you and your practice.
All right, so it's gonna make me sound old, especially to you, right?
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for 30 years, but so I started as an insurance adjuster. I did that for 6 years, so I worked on the insurance side, handled insurance claims. After I did that for 5 years, I decided I was gonna go back to law school, so I did that. And then when I was in the middle of law school, I left and went to work for a plaintiff firm, and then just continued on. So I've been licensed for about 21 years, but when you add in the other stuff, I've been doing this for about 30.
Cool,
So.
very good. And tell them where you're located.
Yep, office is in Egan, but we handle cases all over. So we're licensed in Minnesota, North Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, a few other states further off, but so we handle cases all over. So that is one of the things. So you're in Woodbury,
Yeah.
We're in Egan. Office is about 12 to 15 minutes based on the drive. But you know, we if somebody's hurt, we go to them if they want to, or if they say I'm too busy, I don't want to meet you, I want to do this by email or whatever, we can do that too. We got used to doing that during COVID. So,
Oh, I'm sure.
So location's important, but not really, because at the end of the day, a lot of the interaction now, especially when we used to do it by Zoom and, you know, FaceTime, whatever, it's pretty simple to do from wherever, but.
Yep.
So.
Good, yes. And I've worked with quite a few attorneys around the Twin Cities, and you always want to work with somebody who answers your phone calls and is prompt to call you back. And so we have a handful of attorneys that we like to use just because we know that we're going to get our bills paid, we're going to get the patient's bills paid, friendly, obviously.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we hear you always want to work with people you like.
Right. Yeah, okay. So first, let's start out by why might someone need an attorney after getting in a car accident?
Well, here, the unfortunate answer to that is it seems like it's more of a necessity now than ever. And again, things got even a little tighter since COVID started, but from the time I began in 1991 until now, things have just changed a lot. And I would say, okay, insurance companies were never generous, but if you compare what they did in 1991 to today, they were generous in 1991. So it's just, and again, some of it's a byproduct of people do, I mean, here, we're different as a culture or as a society. The insurance companies, when we went through hurricanes, and especially Katrina, I remember when we went through Katrina, there was a huge shift before and after.
Yep.
I think money got tighter, they changed the way they did their business. We go through cycles, and you know, sometimes it'll be, who's the best insurance company right now? Well, okay, it's company X, but 5 years ago, they were the worst company. So
Okay.
there's so many factors that come into play, but it gets back to, I think if you get in a crash now, the presumption should be, you're probably not going to get treated fairly. Insurance people listening will hate that statement, but it's a true statement. They're not looking out for you. They're looking out for what they're supposed to. They're looking out for the company they work for. They want to try to help the company make money. They do that by taking premium in, but not giving money back. So
Right.
when people get in a crash, the longer they wait to call, the more they expose themselves to risk. And typically they'll figure it out and they'll say, by the time they get to the end, their one biggest issue or statement will be, I wish I would have called you sooner. I've seen
Right.
somebody do that yesterday.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
Because things happen and they, you know, you innocently say things.
Right.
But innocently saying things sometimes hurts your case, hurts what happens, hurts how you get treated, and it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. And I've been doing this for 10 years myself as a chiropractor, and every single case is different. So there's times where they're like, am I going to be, the patient's asking, is this going to be covered? And I have to call because I don't know. I'll call on different attorneys and say, in this situation, what do you see is going to happen, or how is this looking for their case? So it's always good to ask questions as chiropractors as well. So, all right, let's start with like right after someone gets in the car accident at the scene.
Okay.
What should you do?
First thing I would encourage anybody that gets in a crash to do is call the police. Sometimes people will hear a Other person may not have a driver's license. Other person may have been drinking. Other person may have kids in the car. There's lots of different factors that come into play. And again, sometimes people, I'll say, are too nice.
Right.
They don't want to get the other person in trouble. But what they don't understand is sometimes when they don't make that call right away, people leave the scene, bad things can happen. I just had a lady yesterday, the other person, when they got in a crash, person tried to give her, they tried to give fake name, fake driver's license, fake license plate number.
Yep.
Fortunately, when the person wasn't looking, she snapped a picture of the license plate.
Yep.
So she found who it was, but I mean, and again, that happens with a fair amount of frequency.
Yeah, I've
Plus,
heard.
and plus, you mean here, fake insurance cards. You know, I had an insurance card, my insurance expired. Here's my insurance. They don't say I don't have any.
Yeah.
So I understand, and sometimes it's good in life to be kind, but you can't be foolish or stupid and to your own detriment. So the first thing everybody should always do is call the cops, just because it's going to help collect the information. The cop's going to look at the driver's license. The cop's going to talk to the person about what happened, and it's just going to make it a lot cleaner.
Okay, perfect. Yes. All right. How about, should you move your vehicle to a safe spot?
Oh, here, sometimes. So you want to make sure you move it so that you're not in a position where, you don't want to make what's bad worse, right? You just got in a crash and now something bad happens where you get hit.
Right.
So generally you do. I would say the only exception to that rule might be, if you can't tell for sure who's at fault, you might be better off leaving it there if you know the cops are reasonably close by.
Sure.
So that they can get there, everybody can see what the positioning was before you move.
Yep.
But yeah, it's kind of, so it depends on circumstances, but yeah, you always want to, get somewhere safe so that you don't get hurt worse or somebody else doesn't get hurt worse.
Right. Taking pictures of your vehicle, is that always important?
Yep, I'd say do that at the scene if you can.
Okay.
Sometimes it gets a little funky if you want to take the other person, a picture of their vehicle. Sometimes the cops will go, it depends if things are heated at the scene.
Okay, got it.
If things are a little heated at the scene, that probably isn't the best idea. It might make it escalate even further. But yeah, but I think you want to try to preserve as much information as you can right away.
Very good. And then if there's any witnesses, you also suggested getting their contact info.
I do. Because here's the thing, the cops come to the scene, they're busy, they're doing their best. A lot of people assume there's a witness there. Even if the police talk to them, they got their name and their phone number and everything. It doesn't always work that way. Then you get the police report and then you're like, well, there's a witness on there. No, there isn't a witness on there. And then you have no idea who they were. So it's just always a good idea if you can get their name and their phone number. Because at that point in time too, they still might be willing to be involved. I mean, nowadays, lots of people, when they see a crash, almost want to look the other way and run.
Yeah.
Because again, who wants to be hassled with it, right? I don't want to end up in court. I don't want to end up if somebody's getting a ticket. I don't want to end up, when they're getting their ticket, getting called to criminal court. But I mean, more often than that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of saying, okay, here's what I saw. But so yeah, I mean, getting that information is huge because if you don't, you might lose your opportunity.
Right. Yeah. All right. Big question that a lot of patients want to know, and I have to answer this as well, but patients say, will my rates go up if I'm in a car accident?
That's what everybody's worried about, right? Are they going to drop me and are my rates going to go up? So here, if you're at fault in a crash, so here, if I rear end you in my car, my rates are going to go up. I'm at fault, okay? But yours aren't, even if you bring a claim, because you didn't do anything wrong. So the law in Minnesota says if you're 51% or more at fault, then your rates can go up. Now granted here, what happens a lot of times, somebody will come in, they'll have been rear-ended, they'll ask the question, are my rates gonna go up? Well, no, because you weren't at fault. But then they go buy a newer car or something of that sort. Here, that can make your rate change, right? But just the matter, if you were just in a crash and you have your vehicle fixed and everything else stays the same, everybody can get a rate hike, but you're not gonna get a rate hike just because you were in the collision or even if you bring a claim. People always assume, well, if I bring a claim, so if I haven't fixed my car, or even worse yet, here, my neck hurts, my back hurts, I need treatment. If I go get treatment, it's not gonna make my rate go up unless I'm at fault, and then it wouldn't matter if I got treatment or not. If I run into you, my rates are gonna go up, it was my fault. It doesn't matter if I get treatment or don't get treatment, nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that a lot of people, they get concerned about right away. And then here, I have the really bad luck. I ran into you 2 weeks ago, and I ran into you today on the way to work. I had like a bad run. You know, even if I run into you, I mean, maybe there's an insurance company that drops somebody. The only time I've ever seen insurance companies drop people in 30 years is when they lie to them.
Oh.
You know,
Yeah.
if I get if you get several DWIs, then they would. But I mean, the times when they really will drop you is if you lie to them. So if you submit an application and there's something on there that you blatantly lied about,
Yeah.
they're probably gonna drop you. You weren't honest with them. But
Right.
other than that, you're not gonna get dropped just because you have a few claims. If you have a whole bunch of claims, maybe.
Yeah.
But people have that fear.
Oh yes. More often than not, when I'm taking histories, I'll see, like, were you in a car accident? Did you receive care? And the ones that say no are usually the ones at fault. And I'm like, you still need to get treated, and don't be afraid to use your insurance, because
Right.
I think they're just more ashamed and thinking that, like, oh crap, my rates are really gonna go up now. But
I think they're worried that they're gonna make what's bad worse. So they go, okay, I already got in the crash.
Yep.
And now if I do other things, it's gonna make things worse or more expensive or whatever, and that's not the case.
Right.
In fact, at that point in time, your rates are going up anyway. If you're hurt, you should get treatment, because
Yeah.
why not?
Right.
It's not gonna change anything.
Yes. Okay. That was kind of intermixed here, was can I get medical care after a crash, and who's going to pay for it?
So here, Minnesota's a no-fault state, which throws everybody off, and that people have misconceptions about what that means.
Right.
It still does matter who's at fault, just not with respect to your medical care, your lost wages, and then what I'm gonna say for simplicity is getting help around the home.
Correct.
Okay, but here, so yeah, if I get in a crash, even if it's my fault, I can certainly get medical care. If I'm hurt, I should get medical care, right? If I don't treat it, we all know what happens then, things get worse.
Yeah.
I end up with more problems down the road. I have, the arthritis that I probably wouldn't have had if I get treated right away, I do have if I don't get treated.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, if I am in a crash, if I hit a deer or whatever and get hurt, I still wanna go get medical care.
Right.
Because otherwise it creates all kinds of other issues that you know way more about than me.
All right. Speaking of additional benefits, tell us, so patients know, like, okay, well, my insurance will cover my chiropractic care. What else? I've written lots of different recommendations, but you're better off, like, talking about it than I am. But
Walk through?
Yep.
Sure. Well, here, chiropractic care, massage therapy.
Yep.
If I have an orthopedic injury, I go to an orthopedic doctor. Acupuncture.
Yep.
Lots of different things that way. But then beyond that too, okay, I'm off work. Right? People always think kind of work comp's a little different than work comp. It pays a little better than work comp. So I get paid, if I'm off work and I'm in a crash, I get paid 85% of whatever I would have been making if I was at work. It's up to $500 a week now. If you're not at fault, if your earnings go over that, you can always go to the other company when you settle your case at the end. And then here's the other one that a lot of people don't know about. Okay, I'm hurt, I can't do my things at home. I can't do, here, my laundry's on the basement level, I can't carry things up and down.
Yep.
Okay, so starting on the 8th day after a crash, I can get what's called replacement service benefits. So it's up to $200 a week. So if my sister comes over and does stuff for me that I did before, or even if nobody does it and it was done before, you can still get that benefit. And that's something a lot of people don't know about.
Right. Yes. That's exactly what I was talking about.
And
for
here,
patients.
and back to the earlier question, I won't say never, but rarely will the insurance company ever tell you about that benefit.
Right.
You get deeper into a case and somebody will be 3, 4, 5 months down the line, and you'll start talking to them and you'll say, well, okay, you were off work. Did anybody tell you what replacement service is? What's that? So that's one of those examples where if you don't call an attorney and get help, it's probably something you're not ever gonna hear about.
Right. Very good. Okay. How about the difference of just working with an attorney or going straight through working with the insurance company?
Well, here, when you're working with the insurance company and you're not working with a lawyer, that means that you're talking to the company all the time. If you have the attorney, I don't communicate with the company at all. It all goes through the attorney. So as you imagine, I'm talking to the insurance company all the time, and I'm telling them just even in just general conversation, maybe trying to be a good person, I tell them stuff that I probably shouldn't tell them.
Right.
So it's one of those things. So the biggest thing I think is just the open line of communication, and then the insurance adjuster, as I did way back when, I'm gonna inquire, right? I'm gonna ask questions of the individual that I would never ask of a lawyer. The lawyer wouldn't know.
Right.
The lawyer wouldn't tell them.
Right.
But I can learn a lot more, and I'm gonna say to the injured person's detriment if they don't have a lawyer, because it's just an open line of communication.
Right. We do have patients that they tell us all the time, like, my insurance company called me today, and it's like, the first thing they say is, hey, good morning, how are you?
How are you?
And they say, hey, I'm doing great, thanks, because they
Right.
might be just a nice person, and they might say, she said she's doing great, and then, again, that might hurt your case.
Right, gets taken out of context. Right?
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
they're really not doing great, but that's what we all say, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's what we're conditioned.
Minnesota nice
Yeah,
sometimes.
there you go.
Mm-hmm. All right, can you get an attorney if you're at fault?
Yes.
Okay.
A little harder because, I mean, here, that goes to the other question of probably, okay, do I have to pay the lawyer, right? Is it, do I pay a retainer, do I pay money up front? Well, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on recovery. But then the first question, if I'm at fault, it gets a little trickier, but yeah, absolutely you can.
Okay. Speaking of that, how do you get paid? Because patients are like, I don't want to get an attorney because they think I'm gonna have to owe them money like right now. Explain that.
All right, so here, we only get paid if the injured person gets paid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always I always tell people, so right now, you're not gonna understand this, you will later. You're always gonna have two fights. I said, the part you don't understand is you're gonna fight with your own company. And they always kind of look at you like, I don't get it. They soon after learn, and then you're gonna fight with the other company.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you have to make sure you get your medical care, and then you have to make sure that you fight through the rest of it to get your settlement from the other company too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little trickier, people don't understand, sometimes they think it's a good thing, well, I have the same company as the person that hit me. Okay? Well, that's typically a bad thing, because if they're gonna pay you more on the other side, if you treat more, right, or get the treatment you need,
Yeah.
they're gonna try to stop your treatment so that they don't end up paying as much on the other side. So there's always intricacies with that, but a lot of times what they don't know can often hurt them.
Right.
They make assumptions about things that often are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably better to have different companies. Your company is one company and the at-fault person's is a different one.
Right.
Because at least then they're not, and again, they're not supposed to look at the file internally if they're on one side and not the other, but it still happens.
Sure. This just came off the top of my head as we're thinking about it, but how important is it that patients make their appointments? Whether it be acupuncture, massage, chiropractic, ortho.
You know, hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
So here, you gotta be compliant. If you tell me I'm supposed to do A, B, and C, and I don't,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't get better, that's my fault.
Yep.
Okay? And the insurance company looks at that too and said, well, you know, like here, I just had this happen. You were told to go to physical therapy and you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here, I probably wasn't hurt very bad, right? Or here, I take a month and I don't have a good reason. COVID was a whole different thing. But here, right now, if suddenly I'm supposed to come in to see you today and I disappear for a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then I come back, well, everybody's gonna wonder, why haven't I been coming in? And the assumption by the insurance company is, well, it must have been better. Right?
Mhm.
They must not have been in pain.
Right.
So if you're told to do it, you need to, no matter what it is, because again, the goal is to try to continue to get better.
Right.
If you're not following the rules, probably don't. Maybe the message it's sent, I don't care about getting better, or I'm just not that hurt.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
Plus, it slows down the recovery process too. If I'm getting better, and I'm on a good progression, then I stop.
Mhm.
That screws with what you're trying to do too, and I'm sure it's frustrating for you as well.
Definitely. All right. A few different things. How long does it take to resolve cases?
Well, here, that's a common question people ask on the very first meeting.
Mhm.
Well, here, it depends how long it takes them to get better, right?
Mhm.
Everybody gets better at a different rate, depends on what they had before. It depends on, here, if they have a history of concussions and they have another concussion, that makes it worse.
Yep.
If they hurt their neck before, they're predisposed. So there's all kinds of things factor in, but I always tell people, I can't tell you how much you're gonna get, and I can't tell you when we're gonna get done, because I don't know how fast you're going to get better.
Excuse me, there are some insurance companies that will literally within the first month of care ask my patients to, here's a check, let's be done with this.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that and what you should do in that circumstance.
Well, here, so that kind of ties back to the other question before too. What happens if you don't contact a lawyer right away? Sometimes bad things like that. And there's a few companies in particular that will go unnamed.
Right.
That are worse about that, where they'll try to buy you off right away, and it can either happen with you on, well, here, I'm gonna say the no fault side or the medical side, or on the other side where they're trying to get you to just settle and go away.
Right.
So on the no fault side, there's certain companies that will try to advance you money. People think they're being nice. They're not being nice. They're trying to get an advantage. They hope, I'm gonna give you $1,000, especially here around the holidays, if you just lost your job, you know, if they're gonna try to find out a little bit about you to figure out if they have a hook to be able to sucker you into, I'll use that word, taking the money, and then here, going to the grocery store, going to the casino, or wherever, right? Take the money somewhere else, and then here's what happens. You send your bill off to get paid. I come in as the patient, and you said, hey, the insurance company said that you got a check already. And then I disappear, because then I'm afraid you're gonna get upset with me. So their goal is, I'm gonna give you this advance money, and then I'm hoping that I somehow drive a wedge in between the patient and the provider.
Yep.
So the treatment stops. And then when treatment stops, it creates all kinds of other issues. I don't get better, I have lifelong problems, I don't get a settlement later, which goes to the other side too. If the at-fault party is trying to call you and settle with you right away, I always tell people, do you really think they would call you and be nice to you and pay you more than you deserve if they're trying to do it right away?
Right.
Of course not. It's better for them, it's better for their business. They close their file, they don't have administrative costs, they don't have a risk, etc. But again, it's, well, here, you know, how are you? How are things going? Oh, not so good. I just lost my job. Whoa. I better try to get this, you know, I'm gonna pay this person $500 right away, or $1,000 right away to make them go away.
Right.
And then they end up, and down the road, then they call and they think they can undo that when they already signed a release. It's like, no, you signed away your rights, but I didn't know, I didn't understand how badly hurt I was.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's also equally important to come in right away after an accident.
Absolutely.
So we know, and then just in conversation, you're like, okay, don't do that yet. Hold on. You should talk to somebody before you say anything.
Right.
Just,
But to that point too, okay, if I'm kind of, okay, I'm sore, I think I'm gonna get better. I don't know if I'm gonna get better.
Oh yeah, we
right?
see people. Even something minor just lingers long enough. We're like, okay. Even a few months later, they're like, okay, I got an accident, and I thought it was gonna go away. Now it's just there, and it's getting worse.
Now it's worse.
So.
Yep. And then you're left to deal with, you know, here, I gotta pay for it on my own.
Right. Yeah. Okay. How long can you receive medical benefits?
Well, here, so we didn't talk about that before. So you have medical payments. Typical coverage is up to $20,000, which is probably something. Anybody listening, go ask your insurance agent to stack your benefits.
Yep.
Okay? If you have,
I learned that right away.
if I have 3 cars in the house, I can get 60 or 20 times 3. That's a smart move because it doesn't cost very much.
Right.
But if you don't have that, it's 20,000. And here's the other catch though. A lot of times the insurance companies say if I don't treat for a year, I have a 1-year lapse in treatment, then my coverage ends. Not the case. What they forget is there's 2 parts. 1-year lapse in disability, you know, and time. Okay? If you still have an ongoing issue, I have a gal right now that has an ongoing shoulder issue. Whether she'll treat or not, I don't know. But at least she has to have, she knows she has the option to if it can relate back.
Gotcha.
Right? And she hasn't had any other injuries, so there's no way it wouldn't relate back.
Right.
So.
Anything else you can think of? Okay. That's important before you start wrapping it up.
You know, I think it's important for them to come see you to get medically checked out so they know what they're dealing with.
Right.
I think it's important for them to at least talk to a lawyer so then I know what my rights are. I know what I should do, what I shouldn't do. still better to get protection that way. And just for everybody to remember, again here, your insurance agent, once you get in a collision, they're not your friend. They're still maybe your friend, but they're not really your friend.
Right.
The insurance adjuster isn't your
Business.
friend, right? They might be nice people, but they're not there to help you, right?
Yep.
And here, the thing with the insurance agent, this is what everybody forgets. They always think their insurance agent is always looking out for their well-being. If I bring a claim and that makes my insurance agent's loss ratio go up, so for every dollar I take in, X money goes out. Once the loss ratio goes up and I'm the agent, my bonus goes down. Really hard for me then to tell, you come in and say, I got in a crash, what should I do? I'm not gonna tell you to go treat, probably. Some of them will.
Oh, I see what
But
you're
I
saying,
mean,
yeah.
more often than not, the agents, they're conflicted. So everybody's just
Yeah.
gotta remember, in the
Mhm.
process, sometimes you gotta step back and just kind of take the logical approach. Okay, I'm gonna get checked out medically, I'm gonna figure out what rights I have, and then I'm gonna gauge what to do. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, So just, I guess, probably don't try to take your emotion out of it to a degree. If the other person's, gets in a crash with you, call the cops. Do all that, just kind of do the certain steps and do the right thing, because at the end, if you do that, the process is gonna end a lot better for you medically, for you financially, and you won't be upset with yourself at the end of it if you made bad choices along the way that impact either you and or your family or others around you.
Oh, yeah, yep. Well, there is a million more questions we could ask, and we
That's
said we
probably
could
true.
go on and on for hours talking about it. So thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll probably do another one of these, so answer more questions.
All right, sounds good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.